I'm Josiah.
And I'm Adam.
We're with Salada Gun Shop. The question before us is, what is Colorado to us? I ask myself this. I ask my friend, my business partner this, truly to define, like, why are we here? Why would we continue to stay and fight in this wonderful state itself?
Some people ask, is it really a wonderful state at this point in time?
True.
I know I can say for myself, um, I didn't move here to leave. I didn't move here to change it. I moved here for a passion.
When did you move here?
I moved to Colorado in April of 2012. Um, I moved from California, where I grew up in, we'll call it the Bay Area, and then worked up and down the coastline, lived up and down the coastline, and then kind of settled in Los Angeles, or the suburb, one of the cities outside of Los Angeles, and kind of came to I don't know, I would say a life stop, or like a point in your life when you find a passion for something. That something was hunting for me, and found that passion, and I was all in. Um, Started hunting early 20s, and then by that time I was mid 20s, and I mean, just everything I could consume in regards to media and you know all that stuff. I was all about it.
Was the
Anyways,
hunting just in California at that point, though?
no. So it started at that point, right? Started duck hunting a lot, and I mean, my schedule at the time afforded me multiple days off in a row, so I could, you know, travel and hunt. And then it moved into big game hunting out there, and then I got a invite from a longtime friend. Um, we went to high school together. His dad had made some, good financial moves in his lifetime, and had bought a place in Colorado in the mid '90s,
Hmm.
uh, which stems into a whole different realm of how they ended up getting that place. But his dad moved from Maine to Colorado after he retired from Fish and Wildlife in Maine. More on the fish side, I
Mhm.
guess you could say. Um, and they ended up moving to Colorado, and which set a ball rolling for his dad. Like, so my buddy's dad's dad ended up in Colorado, which ended up making my buddy's dad buy a place in Colorado, and which ended up getting an invite for me to go out to their property and help hunt. And um, I came to Colorado, and I think my first time was 2006, 2007. And boy, I was just, you grow up in California, and there's this lifestyle, I guess you could say, that is just, this is how our life kind of works, right? You go, like what I talked about in the other video, you go to, the grocery store, you go
Yeah.
to, you know, your gym, you go to whatever, you do all your things. Anyways, I ended up coming out in 2007 and was just amazed. I mean, amazed by the landscape, the amount of game, people, the people. Like, it was like crazy to me to go to a town where people were super nice. Nice, hello, hold the door open, you know. Um, Something I grew up with, and I would say values that were instilled in me at a young age.
But you almost moved away from that
Yeah,
for work, and
yeah,
then is almost a return, almost kind of.
yeah. It was like a light, like life, right? Like life comes at you fast, and you are kind of riding this
Mm-hmm.
wave per se of like, oh, this is where this is where I work, this is where I make money. I'm in this like kind of comfort zone, and I kind of just like, I don't know, took a step outside of that, and then come here, and I was just like, every year post the hunting season, just like driving back, you always were like, why am I leaving? Why am I going back to something that I kind of like I didn't hate, right?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't that I hated it. Um, but it wasn't where I wanted to be. And everything up until then in life was kind of a pit stop, right? You move here, you do this, okay, what's the next goal?
Yeah.
Well, come here, do this. What's the next goal? And for me, it was a no-brainer. I had some life obstacles to get through to get to the point to move to Colorado, but I specifically remember I believe it was 2012. No, 2010. I left Colorado and said, okay, I need to make a big game plan. I need to figure it out, and I need to know how I'm going to move to Colorado.
Did you give yourself a window of time for this to happen, or just like this needs to happen? How fast can I make it happen?
I really, what I did was so I go back after the hunting season and kind of just started doing some research, like like looking at things. Was like, okay, I need to be in Colorado by I think it was July of 2012 is what I set for myself.
Yeah.
I had some things with the previous industry I worked in regards to licensing and different stuff that I was like, okay, what schooling do I need? What credentials do I need? Where's the place?
Right.
What type of thing? So then in 2011, I came out to hunt, but also I took off a month of work to drive around Colorado to figure out, okay, this is where I'm going to move to.
Yeah.
What's the, you know, what's the place to move to transition easily into Colorado?
Maybe not the ideal
Yeah.
location, but at least that make it as easy as possible for the hoops
Yep.
you've already jumped through. Yeah.
Yeah. And the big thing I don't talk about or that I haven't mentioned is I've had family that's lived in Colorado since Colorado was essentially homesteaded. My aunt and uncle lived in this county since 1960, mid 1960s.
Oh wow.
So I had visited here before my
Mm.
hunting escapades, I guess you could say, but like as a young kid. Um,
So did you come out every year from the 2006, 2007 on a hunting trip
yep,
for big game or
big game.
yeah.
Yep, every year.
So it
Always a
was
deer hunt.
always in your mind, and
Always.
then 2010 hits and you're like, I got to make this happen.
I think that's like where my true passion for hunting mule deer came about was every year it was okay, November. Every year it was you look forward
Mm.
to that trip. Like, because you knew, I mean, it was time off of work, it was, you know,
Out of state
out
tag.
of state tags, chasing mule deer. Like, it was cool. I mean, I looked at it and I was just always super stoked and never understood why there are people that were so close to it that were not as jazzed about it as I was, but I'd still find that to be the case nowadays. Is
A lot of town deer, you know.
yeah, you see people and they're like, "Oh, cool, hunting season. I might get a couple days." It's like, man, I feel like that's like part of my life.
Yeah.
At least that's, you know.
It's almost like it wedged itself in your life
Oh
and
yeah.
never went away.
Mm-mm.
Nice.
Yeah, it's always been like, thing with my wife and I, it's like September to January, it's kind of, we'll see you when I see you.
Yeah.
But so I made that plan, moved to Colorado, and got here. And I was telling somebody about this last week. Uh, I moved to Colorado Springs. It was in April, and I'm moving into the apartment, and the Thunderbirds were doing their uh, what's it called? Their like practice
Yeah.
sessions while I'm unloading a trailer to move into my apartment, and I'm like,
What a welcome.
this is America. Like literally just like I am floored.
Yeah.
Just grew up with the Blue Angels, going watching air shows, and I'm thinking, this is it. This
Wonderful
is
sign.
this is it. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I don't think it gets better than this. And then, just life happens. Not life, but like I'm stoked to be here. I'm getting in-state tags. I'm paying, 80% less for tags now. And the first year I was here as a resident, I go to apply, and this is 2013, I guess, because technically you have to have your 6 months of
Hmm.
residency or whatnot. Anyways,
I'm surprised you didn't plan that a
I
little
did.
better.
I did actually. So I got my residency and knew that if I got it right when I got here, that I'd be able to prove that I could buy over the counter tag on residency status.
Nice.
But I'd already applied for the deer tag.
Yeah.
Anyways, um, so I ended up buying an elk tag over the counter that year for cheaper, and I was super stoked about that. Not to mention, I walked into the DMV to get a license, and it took 15 minutes. And I was like,
Didn't have to pull a number, sit
oh
and wait.
man. If anybody remembers the Dane Cook skit when he talks about when you walk into the DMV and somebody should just be standing there ready to punch you in the face. If that doesn't explain the California DMV to you, then I don't know what
Yeah.
what does. But you walk into a Colorado DMV, at least at this time, I mean, it's still like that around the rural
Yeah.
areas in Colorado, but that's obviously changed in other areas. But when I went to the DMV in Colorado Springs, and literally it was like, oh, you mean I just walk up to that person right there waiting to help me? What?
Yeah.
So I don't know. There was just a whole bunch of wins going on at the time, and moved here to super, super, just so happy to be here and so happy to be amongst people that were um, wanting to live the same lifestyle, just kind of live, let live. And, hey, we're just kind of doing our thing. And then 2013 hit. I thought it was an interesting time in Colorado Springs. Uh, you know, all the marijuana stuff and the gun law stuff kind of came about,
Yeah.
magazine bans. Um, Prior to that, there was cash and carry.
Right.
Arms list was a thing and whatnot. And that was like, whoa, like cash and carry, this is awesome. Like,
Yeah.
this is America, right? Because I know you're here and you're legal and we're all just doing legal stuff.
Right.
And that was like, okay, cool. Not to mention, I got my concealed carry within the first. I became a resident and I literally got a concealed carry immediately.
Yeah.
Because that was not a thing where I came from. Like it just, especially at that time,
Yeah.
it just wasn't a thing. Anyways, moved to Colorado and ended up I mean, I had it all planned out, right? Do a 6 month lease on the apartment, have a plan to buy a place, and immediately I was looking for a place to buy. You know, this is like this is life planning stuff, right? Like I knew I was going to move to Colorado. I knew I wanted to buy a place. I didn't know what I could afford.
Mm.
So, and mind you, I'm like mid 20s and I'm thinking, oh, don't you just go on the internet and look for a house and that's how it works?
Yeah.
You know, I lived outside so my dad died at an early age. I grew up with my mom, and uh, just those life things that you kind of just learn on your own. You move out of the house. I moved out fairly young, uh, quicker than most people nowadays. It seems like,
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyways, I just went on the internet and was like, "Ah, I'll just look for a place around Colorado Springs. I don't know." I found a place in Hanover, Colorado, on 35 acres for like $150,000, and I was like, "Wait, whoa, 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 whoa! You can buy a place on 35 acres for $150,000? This is insane." Mind you, I had not went to Kansas yet, but
The pricing structure is different.
yeah,
Yeah.
price structure was a little bit different over there. I found that out early on because I went turkey hunting out there, and I was like, "You could buy a place for $60,000 out here? What?" Anyway, so I bought a place out there, and there were so many people at the time where I was working. They were like, "You're gonna live where?" And I think what people don't look at is like where I came from is like people stacked on top of each
Mm.
other, right? People stacked on top of each other in a community that was built in the 60s that was, um, like the growing of Los Angeles. They had these like, what do they call them? Not row houses, but like cookie cutter homes type
Mm.
thing. Anyways,
Spec-ish type.
yeah, just like, I can't remember the right name of it. Anyways, the only person we knew on the block was the lady that lived next to us. So this old lady that lived next to us, we lived in this community of tract homes. So the growing of Los Angeles, he had a bunch of tract homes at the time. Anyways, nice neighborhood. Rent was fairly cheap because we knew some people.
Yeah.
Anyways, long story short, we had no community. I mean, you got millions of people living here, millions of people, no community. We didn't. Our other next door neighbors, like didn't want anything to do with us. We were nice people. I think we were courteous. Um, but like when I was going to buy this place in Hanover, there was a lot of people I was working with. They're like, "Why the heck would you want to live out there?"
Hmm.
The first thing I thought about was like, well, nobody lives by me, which I thought was a cool thing. And I still do. I still like that type of living personally. Because I'll be honest with you, I don't want to hear, you know, XYZ person yelling at XYZ person, or I don't want to hear people pull into their driveway at
Yeah.
night. I just, I don't want to live in that
You don't need to
area.
know their business. You don't
No,
need to want to know their business. Yeah.
not at all. But at the same time, like I still want to know my
Yeah.
neighbors, right? I still want to have a community of people. Um,
They might have, the sugar or the milk that you need to finish your recipe.
right? Not that I'm cooking anytime, I'm just not the baker.
No.
But so I moved out there, and I was, I don't know. Uh, Colorado really changed at that time. When I bought this place. When I bought this place, there was 10 homes that were actually occupied. Maybe not even that, honestly. It
Mm.
was might have been less. But there was a ton of unoccupied homes. Well, we'd go back and look. It was 2013. What happened? Marijuana was legalized, and then I saw it personally, uh, working on an ambulance. As a paramedic, you saw a lot of people that influxed into Colorado that were here for the marijuana industry that had no clue what was going on
Mm.
with it all. And what I mean by that is they didn't know that at the time, I don't know what it is now, like you couldn't be like a felon, you had to get a license, you had to do all that stuff. But these people were unhomed people
Mm.
living around Colorado Springs. We call them urban campers. That's what they were, like, just camping on essentially in the like the green spaces and whatnot. Yeah, most for the most part, most were nice people, but they were here for maybe not the right reasons
Yeah.
that people moved to Colorado for why I moved here. I guess it doesn't matter why I
You're
moved here, but most people moved to Colorado for the beautiful landscape and the freedom. Um, anyways, a lot of those homes that were out by me started getting bought up, which I thought was interesting. I was like, why does somebody want a rundown trailer? That's weird. And then it was, you know, big, huge yards getting black fencing and 5-ton ACs into small
mm.
little modular home areas. And I was like, oh, I don't consider myself a dummy. Like I I worked on an ambulance. Like I know what drugs are. I know what, that type of stuff, that type of behavior.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. It was people moving in to do black market stuff. Right next to me.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I'll be honest, I mean, Colorado invited it in.
Yeah.
Nothing against marijuana and the marijuana industry. It just invited that illegal behavior in, right?
Well, it's like you said, they were coming here not realizing what it
No.
was for illegal consumption or
Mm-hmm.
legal possession,
Yeah.
and it turned it into a black market mecca.
Oh, it was like it was a mecca for those folks at that time. Um, in the I would say from the law enforcement standpoint, it probably was pretty tough to actually delineate,
Yeah.
at the time. Anyways, long story short, I wanted to move closer to family. At the same time, I wanted to move closer to my passion. Uh, Big game hunting was really big for me. Once moving to Colorado, I still was duck hunting quite a bit. I mean, every
So let's not
week.
skip over the passion that you have for duck hunting, and what did you bring with you when
Yeah.
you also moved to Colorado?
Yeah, I moved out to Colorado with he was a 6 month old Chesapeake Bay Retriever, old Hank, and he's was is still quite the dog. He's 13 now, right? 13, 14, almost. I don't know. He's he's old. He's old now. He gets around still, but yeah, I moved out here with him. He was almost a year. Anyways, um, and at that time I was duck hunting all across the state. There wasn't a piece of land that I did not hunt. I remember the first time I ever hunted in the valley. Um, is an odd memory, but I woke up late to get to the spot. I get there and I'm 30 minutes before 30 minutes before shoot time. And anybody who knows in California, uh, duck hunting world, if you're 30 minutes before shoot time, you're not getting on a refuge.
You're
You're just,
behind.
you're just too far behind. I get there and nobody's in the parking lot. I'm like, so I'm over here, new guy to Colorado, pulling out the hunting rigs, like looking at the dates, making sure, like, I'm not doing like making sure that the area I'm hunting is not closed or something
You're gonna
weird.
see a red lamp walking
Yeah.
towards you.
And I'm like, holy cow, there's just nobody here. So went duck hunting and had a great day and went home and I was like, I just the passion just from that, I mean, just poured on. Um, it was cool. I mean, I don't know. There's so many different things I could say. Like, I met a good friend of mine, best friend, I would say. And when I first moved to Colorado, we were in the same uh, new hire class, and he had a Ducks Unlimited sticker. I was like, "You duck hunt?" He looks at me, "Yeah, I duck hunt." And I'm like, "We're gonna be best friends." And since then on, like we've always hunted. We hunted a
Yeah.
lot together. 3 days a week. 3 days a week we'd be hunting.
So from the Colorado Springs, what did that really give you access to as far as something that was it 30 minutes away, 90 minutes away,
Oh
4 hours away that you guys were spending time,
man, we would. Oh God, that was that was a whole nother thing, a whole nother lifestyle at the time. So uh, I moved out with the Dodge 2500 diesel. Pull the trailer, do all that stuff, and we started duck hunting a lot. And I was like, man, I got to get something like affordable. So I started like cruising like Craigslist and like all the auto stuff. And I'm like, a Dodge Neon would like do the trick, right? So I found a Dodge Neon. I think it was a 2000 Dodge Neon, red in color, the ugliest son of a gun you've ever seen. Just we called it the Red Rocket. It was not fast at all, but it had a freaking hitch on it.
ah,
So I got one of those little like tote carriers
okay,
that you can put in a hitch. We put the decoys in there and all that stuff. And man, we would 4 hours. We
yeah.
we'd drive southeast corner. We'd go 2.5 hours all the time. Northeast corner. Oh, we were all over the place. There wasn't a piece of land that we would not visit, check out, pre-scout.
Yeah.
It was it was a it was a fun time. Um, just traveling all around, doing the duck hunting thing.
But the reason you had access to that amount of space is because of CPW.
Oh
Is
yeah,
because of the management, the flyways. There's different flyways in the state of Colorado too, right? We've got
several. Yep.
okay, we do have several. Okay.
Yeah, we got the Continental Divide that splits the two. But essentially, what there's two flyaways, right? But the way CPW essentially breaks it up is there's multiple different zones.
Okay.
So you can hunt in different places at different times. it I mean, it's cool. It's just cool,
Nice.
right? Like, different limits, different game, different bird species, um, totally different landscapes from what I was used to. You walk out on a refuge in California, if you walk out 500 yards, you better be in shape. That mud is so slick and heavy and you're in your waders and you're doing, I mean, it's essentially like you're doing just what's the box, step up on the box thing.
Uh huh.
You gotta do,
Every single time.
oh yeah, every time, every time.
Hips are just
Oh,
yelling
you're
at you.
just crushed
Yeah.
by the time you get out there. Get to Colorado, walk out there, I'm like, dude, you can actually walk. Oh man, yeah, that was good times, man. Um, yeah, so I ended up moving up to here in 2016. Well, I visited, essentially moved end of 2015 up to Chaffee. Moved closer to family. A little bit more at the time. I had, migrated into just solely big game
Mm,
hunting for the most part. Still duck hunting a little bit, but it just when you're that close and during when the seasons kind of the season structure is, it felt like, oh, I'm closer to big game, and
yeah.
started scouting more for that. Anyways, yeah, I don't know. I feel like Colorado's been glorious to me. I feel like I would never want to leave. I don't want to be forced to leave either.
Right.
Like, I don't want to. The way I look at Colorado, different than California, is I moved here for a passion. I moved here for life. And I don't want to move to some other place because people feel like their values are more important than mine, or their, not values, that's not the right, I would say skewed, their skewed mindset
A
of
perspective.
and perspective of what Colorado truly is. Just, I mean, it's wrong. It's wrong.
I think you're right though when you said like people enjoy the beauty of the landscape, the nature, and more importantly the freedom. Like they're attracted to the freedom that is allowed to do the different things that are possible, whether they do them all or they just do the one or the two or change what they enjoy type thing.
I think, I mean, the way I look at Colorado now is like, I moved here for what I feel like Colorado was, right? Like the settling of the West,
No.
right? Colorado was one of the main spots at the time, when they were settling the West. People in Oklahoma were like, nah, just keep going west of Colorado, right? You know, and now it's this hub of confused ideas
Yeah.
or ideals.
Mixed ideology.
Yeah. That one section of this state is dictating how everybody else is supposed to live.
Yeah.
When a lot of the stuff that you look at on that corridor don't apply to everybody else.
Yeah.
It's not that laws don't apply to everybody else. It's just that it just doesn't seem like they don't see the true Colorado.
Well, the part of Colorado that is free, that is open, that is, the beauty, the landscape, the wildlife, the part that they move here maybe potentially to utilize, but then get sucked back into like 15 minutes to, like you
Mm-hmm.
said, to my grocer, to pick up my coffee, do my workout, do my work, and
Yeah.
then back and, take care of, the family, the school and stuff like that. And then they get that one weekend a month, or or maybe they plan a trip to go into that free open space that now they get to take advantage of because they live in Colorado
Mm-hmm.
type thing. So
I think another thing that's kind of like, I'm going to call it a fatal flaw of Colorado is, a lot of people forget how centralized Colorado is to other states. That was like a major thing that like
mm,
I found out quickly. If you want to go turkey hunt Kansas, guess what? It's like 4 hours away. Go turkey hunt
yeah,
Kansas. If you want to go to Texas, man, that's like 12 hours. That's not too far.
yeah,
I'm telling you, if you drive from Redding, California to San Diego, it's going to take you a long time. Long enough to where it's like, yeah, no thanks.
yeah,
You don't want to deal with the traffic. Here, the amount of distance that you can travel in a few hours is insane,
yeah,
which I feel like people that do live in those city centers should get out and experience
yeah.
what's going on outside of the
They're
city
they're
centers.
in Colorado. Like take advantage of the mountains, the 14ers. Gosh, the ski hills, the rivers, you know,
I mean,
the
that's,
high mountain lakes.
look at like around us, like the the river, how many people that attracts,
Mm-hmm.
and like, the water rafting and that type of stuff. Never been my thing. But I don't, discredit people or, say like, oh, that's terrible.
Yeah.
No. Go, have fun. That's cool.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff that you get to see, like you think about that, you travel along the Arkansas, right? And you think about it like how Salida was settled with the railroad, you know, how Buena Vista like came about,
Yeah.
all the history behind it. Like it's insane to think like we are one living in the middle of that, and two, people are not too far away to experience that. I mean, you could go on a rafting trip and you could see turkeys, tons of fish species, right?
Yeah.
You could see bighorn sheep, you could see mule deer, elk. Oh, I mean,
Bald eagle.
God, yeah, man,
Yeah.
like I don't know, get out and experience Colorado a little bit.
Yeah.
It has a lot to offer, a lot to offer. You know, maybe that's not for everybody. I mean, like
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that maybe camping, fishing, biking, hiking. It's not their thing. That's cool,
Yeah.
but some of us like that stuff.
Yeah. Enjoy it. Get sucked into the next thing and by our friends and family and a couple of ruck buddies or whatever the situation might be.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you asked me about it, but like, what does Colorado mean to you? Like, where does how did you end up here?
I got sucked in, is what truly happened. I my previous life, so to speak, was I thought I didn't need the small town and the community, and I moved out. I moved away early, kind of like you did, and went off and tried to do my own thing and did it, and didn't realize the gaping hole that I kind of left for myself that I was missing, and got really lucky and met my wife and realized she was filling a hole and she wanted to be rural again. So we went from Kansas City to Wichita, and then Colorado was kind of calling her to kind of come home. And next thing I know, we're driving through the canyon, and like you said, I'm driving across, in that space on along the river, and sure enough, I look over and I see a bald eagle flying with a a fish species in its mouth, and there's a ram on the other side on the railroad tracks, and it was just kind of one of those epic things like, wow, where am I? And coming from rural Missouri via Kansas City and Wichita, larger cities and stuff, I was like, this is interesting. Like, what am I getting myself into? And the next thing I know, we move so that she can work rurally, and
Mm-hmm.
my job allowed me to do that. And all of a sudden, there's like, hey, I can get on a bike and I can go down a mountain trail way beyond my skill level, but I did it. And then, oh my gosh, so winter comes and hey, there's snowshoeing, there's skiing, there's snowmobiling. What equipment do I need for that? And it literally almost just took over like what I thought I needed in my life and just said, well, what about this? What about this? How about this? And just kind of enveloped me. And the next thing I know, and I grew up, hunting from a deer blind or a stand with a 44 mag or a
Mm-hmm.
12 gauge or a bow, and it was always two species, deer and turkey. We didn't have a lot of birds,
Mm-hmm.
but we had pretty good population of turkey and deer,
Mm-hmm.
but it was always at our convenience. And then coming out here and trying to navigate the different species out here, big game, small game. And I was like, I'm buying tags, I'm putting in for preference points, I think I'm doing this all right. And my second year out here, actually, we came out in 2012 to move ourselves into Salida, and the year before that, we came out to hunt in an area that her family that I started to get to know that hunted. And I was like, sweet, I have an in. I almost have a guide.
Mm-hmm.
And I had the best, 5-day hunt of my experience because I'm thinking oh, we're gonna go out. We'll leave from the location or from the campsite and
Hmm.
go out. And next thing I know, we're like spending 5 days in the wilderness to call and walk and hike, and again, way beyond my depth of what to experience at 10,000, 11,000 feet coming from sea level in Wichita almost. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And the next year I grab a, a tag for muzzleloader,
Hmm.
and I experienced my first actual, like, I am 65 yards away from this amazing animal, and now he's on my wall. Exactly. I tell the story. I'm standing next to Charlie Brown's Christmas tree, and the year before Charlie Brown's Christmas tree, I'm like, I don't know, I'll just stand behind a little bit more coverage one, and got lucky. And and experience, like I said, it just kind of kept enveloping me, and just and saying, try this, do this. And I've seen over the years that coming now, having the shop
Hmm.
2016, bringing you on, and being your business partner and friend, and seeing the passion that you bring for that, it's almost reinvigorated a lot of what Colorado did for me in the beginning, to like, wow, like, this really is a way of life. This is so much more than
Oh yeah.
what I anticipated. Like, it was just another place to move to back in 2012 for us, or for me. I know for my wife, it was more so that she could, be in rural communities, serve the rural community, and it was just another place for me. And then next thing I know, I love this place.
Yeah.
Like,
I love this place.
yeah,
I don't want, I mean,
I want to fight for this. I
yeah.
want people to know, like, I have family that comes out, and they're just like, you live in the most wonderful place. And I'm like, yeah, and that's why I'm going to continue to fight for this. That's why I'm going to continue to scream from the rooftops of, like, these are the things that we need to protect with everything we have.
Yeah, you can't. I think once somebody said it to me, and I thought, yeah, whatever. This is a while ago, years ago. Somebody said, when you leave your home and you find home, you want to get back to home, right? So, like, where you grew up is your home, right?
Yeah,
You want to go back there and visit home, and then you find a new place, and that's your home. Well, Colorado is my home.
yeah,
This area is my home. I'm not leaving.
no, yeah.
Hmm.
I
I'll be
was
buried here.
I was kind of looking through just the different things that I've experienced in a very condensed timeline of living in Colorado compared to the rest of my life. So I was 32 when we moved here, and
Hmm.
I can sum that up in a very, very, very narrow worldview, as well as a very narrow experience of life. Even though my previous job allowed me to travel and see a lot of the country, I was not seeing what truly I was missing. The community, the tribal, atmosphere, the people that cared about you, not just wanted to take your money to serve you, to provide a service, those types of things. And I like the amount of things that Colorado reintroduced me to that I was missing in a very, very short time span is so great. And I'm so thankful for what was out there, and available in a rural community.
Hmm.
Not like, oh, I wanted to have the best access to a mechanic down the road, or the best gym. It was like, I'm going to try hiking. I'm going to see what biking down a single track is. Or, what, snowshoeing. I get invited to go do that. No clue what I'm doing. Skiing. Let's take lessons. Let's do snowboarding. Let's take lessons. Hey, have you ever ridden a snowmobile? Like, and this is all within a town of 5,000 people, which is bigger than what I grew up in,
Hmm.
but also the immense amount of opportunity that I was introduced with search and rescue. Want to volunteer? You want to build trails? Yes. Do you want to help out CPW with any studies? Yes. Like, the answer was always yes. I
Yeah.
want to try that. I want to do that. And
Yeah.
the opportunity, I think, in Colorado is unmatched.
Yeah. You, a lot of people, from California would be like, oh, it's the best place. You can go to the beach. You could do this. You could do that. I don't know. Colorado's pretty
It's
cool
pretty great.
when it comes down to it. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot of things you can do here that in one day,
Yeah.
in one day.
Well, we have even locally the pole pedal paddle. I mean,
Yeah.
literally, you go from the ski mountain to your mountain bike to on the river as a competition. Like, where else? Why else? It's
Yeah.
amazing to kind of see that type things. Like, hey, you want to learn how to be a swiftwater rescue? Yeah. Do you want to
Yeah.
learn how to fly fish? I know how to set a bobber, but I didn't know how to fly fish.
I'd say that's a cool thing about the area
Yeah.
too, right? Like the many different people from different backgrounds, just a melting pot of people,
Yeah.
right? Different areas, different people, different ideas. I think for the most part, like it's always kind of been that way.
Yeah.
Um, what I see is it's the what we call it, like the rancher and river rafter collide,
It's yes.
right? The rancher and
And
river
not a
rafter.
bad collision. It's a
No,
coexistence, and a lot of what we're seeing, I think, overall in the state of Colorado is this coexistence that has always been the lifeblood of the
yeah,
state. It ends up being an erosion of freedoms that I may not understand art, but I can appreciate somebody that puts effort and a talent into something.
hmm
I have an artist friend. I won't say any names, but I'm excited she's
Oh,
debuting.
thanks, man. I am
Yeah,
Ansel.
those that know. But it's one of those things where we're seeing on a legislative side that it's tough for us to have
It's
that
no longer.
that continued melting pot, of what is America, that is Colorado, of the melding of all this amazing stuff. That you start taking away the freedoms that made this wonderful country, if not state itself,
The
what it is.
yeah, the lack of understanding of other people's
Hmm.
like uh, values and ideas, ideologies, I guess you could say. But like now it's like, oh, that's your watch. I want that.
Right.
I'm taking it from you
Yeah.
because oh, it has the time.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know. I don't know how to like reference it more than it feels like a fight that's unnecessary,
Yeah.
right? Like every day somebody comes in the shop, they're like, "What is this new gun law? What is this new,
Yeah.
you know,
Requirement.
requirement?"
Hmm.
And you start to like kind of explain to them like what's going on. I try to do it very just, skimming the top, I guess you could say, very gist of the story, but I'm starting to stop people now because a lot of people are like, they'll say something that's common sense, and there's no common sense involved
Right.
in any of this.
Yeah.
And
It's
that's
it's
like,
hard to put logic and reason
I hate
when.
using that reference too,
Yeah.
because like the anti 2A crowd is
Hmm.
all about common sense gun laws, and to be honest with you, I'm not on that train at all. I'm
Shall
personally,
not be infringed.
yeah, just shall not be infringed. Like,
Yeah.
let's just read it for what it says, and that's it.
Yeah.
Just leave us alone. It's not like I don't know. It's not like we're over here building up militias or whatever. Like,
Right.
I mean, but at the same time, who says to say that we aren't? Just saying.
Yeah.
But I mean, I I want to be able to go do my stuff. My
Right.
stuff is hunting, shooting, having fun that way. Those are the things that I like.
Right.
I'm not.
It's weird to when you put it that way. You want to do the things that you want to
Yeah.
do, right? I don't want to stop somebody from being an artist, from being at the park and displaying their stuff. I don't want to stop somebody from being on the river
Yeah.
because I don't necessarily like being in cold water, but they love that. There's no reason for me to remove somebody's ability to enjoy the things in Colorado
Right.
that maybe I have tried once and didn't like or haven't even tried yet. I'm still waiting for my list to get a little bit bigger, so I can check those off. But the idea of restricting somebody's freedom in the state that we have come to love and be uh, just absolutely enthralled with
Yeah.
because of those things, it just seems so disheartening to have that type of track, or I guess we're going down this path
It's kind of
that,
a weird path too,
yeah,
right? I don't know, we talked about it in the other videos. The collision, the crash course that is being
yeah,
played out right now, it has to come to a stop. Right now it's super tribes, right? Like
yeah,
it's we're going to take over your tribe and this is how we're going to do it.
right,
And I mean it's out there, like it's pretty obvious. The governor who says that he loves wildlife. All is all about the wildlife, right?
yeah,
He's all about the wolves, all about the wildlife, and da. Didn't even show up to Sportsman Day at the Capitol.
backyard. Like, why wouldn't you be there
Why not?
for
Why would you not?
something that takes takes into account the people that take care of the wildlife in this beautiful state, that make sure that many of the species continue to thrive?
According to the budget too, they pay for it too.
Oh, self-sustaining, huh?
It's kind of
It's
crazy,
pretty great. Yeah,
you know. Like you look at from a budget standpoint, like hunters, fishermen, park goers,
yeah,
all those people are paying money for the wildlife. Consumptive use wise, the hunters are the ones that pay for it.
yeah,
North American model. It's got a proven track record,
yeah.
I believe. If you look back at history,
Decades. Yeah,
decades.
yeah.
you know,
It just goes to prove that we, myself, and I'm lumping you in, we want to stay. We want to fight. We want
yeah,
we want this state, let alone the country, to be something that is worth fighting for. And if we don't continue to, plant our flag and stay it is, it won't be.
no,
And the more people that understand, like, like you're saying, like, just leave us alone. Like, let us do our thing.
yeah,
If we're not hurting, if we're not creating a path of destruction, which, if you look at our track record, like the consumptive, people that come into the state, whether they're Coloradans, Texans, Minnesota, East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, like, they come into the state, and we're the most, I think, critical of those people when it comes to, keeping the land safe and sacred and protected, making sure that we're following the rules, making sure that we're following the guidelines, understanding how conservation is not an accident.
no. Mm-mm. It's not. It's proven time and time again.
Yeah,
I don't. I'm always curious why people want to disprove it or go against it when it has such a track record.
I was amazed and I can't remember if it was Dan Gates' podcast or if it was something else that I was listening to, that the reason that we came up with Boone and Crockett and Pope and Young, it was Teddy Roosevelt, right?
Mm,
I believe was on the Boone and Crockett. I might be wrong on that, but the reason was they were concerned that they were never going to see these record animals, the antlers, the size, the amazing antler sets, and the bighorn sheep. So they started recording, the size, and like, what's
hmm
going to happen to these, 10 years, 100 years down the road. What's going to happen? We are still setting records for these animals because of the way we are conserving the wildlife and protecting them. you know the idea that they thought because of the consumptive, way we were hunting these animals, we're never going to have this big event. Well, they're not going to procreate. They're not going to survive. We're going to
Right.
bury their species. And now we see bigger and better animals, and
Yeah.
it's an
Yeah.
amazing thing to see. We've got another record, another record, another record, and across all these different species in the United States, let alone the state.
The state's putting out some pretty good. Pretty, we're pretty good in that
Yeah,
realm.
yeah,
Doing pretty good. A lot of people like to talk negatively on that stuff these days. You don't need to. I don't know. Uh, I personally like. I like big stuff.
yeah.
You know, that's what I'm looking for. Old
Well, a lot,
age class.
yeah, a lot of part of that is with that age, with that size, their genes have been passed on
Oh yeah.
appropriately, so that that gene line, that massiveness, procreates over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And if that larger bull or larger ram continues and its genealogy
Mm-hmm.
starts to fade, what are we going to get out of that animal after its prime? We might get maybe another couple out of it, but we're the conservation side of things creates this amazing gene pool
Right.
that we continue to just see thrive in our state.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd like to reel it back in a little bit away from the conservation side and just say, look at Colorado. Look at where it's going.
Yeah,
The Some of the ranchers are getting pushed out, right? Whether that's development, family choices, and now on top of that, they're putting the pressure on them from the wildlife side,
right.
the wildlife that we're not allowed to manage. I'm just we're messing with the history of Colorado.
Yeah,
We're messing with some of these families homesteaded this place.
yeah.
And we're going to take food and money out of their pockets for a political move,
Agenda,
political agenda.
sweeping agenda. Yeah,
And if you look at it, the political agenda is going to affect everybody eventually, right?
yeah,
Because we obviously are paying for it.
yeah. Rurally, we'll see it much sooner.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we go back to those that have 15 minutes to this location to my shop, my coffee.
Mm-hmm.
They get that one weekend a year to enjoy the great outdoors of Colorado.
They get
Is
all
it
their
there?
they get all their news from one source, or
Yeah,
they read an article that says, "Oh, these are great," or I look at that and I'm like, man, what are we doing?
yeah,
What are we doing? I know what we're doing.
yeah,
We're trying to support Colorado,
yep,
right? Trying to support the way of Colorado, trying to support our community, trying to educate people.
yeah,
You know, I look at it as educating people is the way,
yeah,
right? We got to educate more people on hunting, got to educate more people on the fishing side, right?
right,
The
yeah,
use side,
mm-hmm,
where the money goes to, why it's used in the way that it's
yeah,
used. I mean, a lot of people come to Colorado to ski.
yeah,
They get educated, right?
true,
Quickly.
mm-hmm,
Ice hurts.
yeah,
um, I think we could look at that model here in our industry,
mm-hmm,
right? Educating more people. Most people are afraid of what we deal in because of the news.
true, yeah.
right? The people that live in those areas that do the A to B to C to
Mm-hmm.
back to A, because that's not involved in their life.
Yeah.
It's involved in my life every day. Every day. But educating people is, I think, I don't know, the key that I look at for Colorado is rural Colorado has to educate more of Colorado.
Right. I mean, when you have the coffee talk conversation or sidebar conversations, like somebody says, "I didn't realize there was mountain lion hunting in the state of Colorado,"
Yeah.
and then it's a ballot initiative that then like, well, no, we shouldn't hunt these animals. Like you, 20 seconds ago, you didn't even know that this was a way of life in the state, and now you want to take that way of life away from somebody, like that education piece is just not there.
Mm-hmm.
But it also comes to how it's put out there by those media sources, or maybe it's a lack of understanding of where that information should come from, when it comes to the understanding of like what's the tertiary effect of introducing wolves. What's the tertiary effect of stopping people from hunting with dogs or hunting this apex predator that has been hunted successfully for the last 60, 70 years,
Mm-hmm.
and regulated for the last 15, 20 years.
With population growth,
Yeah, with great growth.
I mean, with, you know, rules, regulations, and seasons
Mm-hmm.
and take and I mean, it's heavily
Right.
regulated. Heavily
It's,
regulated.
I mean, the mountain lion is the only species that you have to take a test for identification in order to get a tag.
And be verified. And then you got to be
Be
verified. I
verified.
mean, you got to call in and
Yeah,
you got to make sure that the unit's still open
yeah.
and, you know,
They have thresholds. I mean,
yeah,
knowing like, oh, that this section that I'm hunting in, or nope, capped,
yeah,
done.
closed.
Yeah,
12 for this year,
yep.
for this season. And you look at that and just, I'm always perplexed by that. Um, I don't really know much about, well, let's say, mountain biking.
Hmm.
But if I went into a store and said, "Oh, you can't sell that,"
Right. Dual suspension should be illegal.
yeah,
Why? I don't know. I know a guy in the industry that said it wasn't, so it should be illegal.
I guess when you don't really understand what occurs,
Right.
why, why do we put politics and why do we put legislation on stuff that a lot of people just don't understand or don't like? I
Yeah.
guess is where I would look at it.
I think having this conversation and kind of mulling it over in my mind prior and now, it comes down to us.
Yeah,
Like
us,
we,
the community.
yeah, we as a community need to help spread the word, have the conversation with those that we, communicate with on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, or shoot, the guys that come out and hunt with us once a year.
Hmm.
Like communicating correctly, like this is going to affect you, and making sure that it's a consistent voice, for the future, for those that, when we see the kids come in with their parents
Yeah.
that are, not necessarily shopping, but are interested in what dad is looking at. A new pair of binoculars means I get the old pair of binoculars, or, we're looking for my first cricket,
Yeah.
or whatever the scenario might be. We see that torch almost it's going to be just extinguished if we don't continue with a common message and understanding of what Colorado is to us,
Yeah.
moving forward.
Colorado. Melting pot of people that at one point in time just wanted to find gold. And now it's ever changing. I mean, it's
Yeah,
changing. It's changing rapidly, and Crash Course is, I don't want to be doom and gloom, right? I
we're still so blessed.
yeah,
I think that's the real takeaway is we're still so blessed at this point that if we lose this point, then it could be
Yeah,
worse.
it it could be changed forever in a negative way.
Very. Yeah.
Uh, you know, it, it could be. I think we see ebb and flow,
Mm-hmm.
right? Ebb and flow of different politicians, different ideas. 2028 can't come fast enough, to be honest. But 26 is a big year.
26 will be.
26 is a big year. Big year to support people who are fighting for the cause.
Are listening to their constituents,
Yeah.
understand what is Colorado, not just, the corridor
I think
or
I
the
think
lobbyists.
I think you say something there that really should be touched on. Is we're coming into a part of the year when constituents matter. Constituents matter.
Yeah. Your
Our
voice.
voice matters, right?
Yeah.
That little time frame in there when the caucus matters,
Yeah.
well, guess what? It's changing, right? We're flipping into
Mm-hmm.
it's what the constituents want. So know that. Know who your representatives are.
What district you live in.
Those people are going to be wanting your vote in
Mm-hmm.
26.
Yeah.
They want your vote. If
How?
you own a business,
Yeah. Or starting a business.
know the people,
Yeah.
right? What are they going to do when they walk into the House? What are they going to do when they walk into the Senate? Where are they going to vote? Who are they going to vote with? Who are they paid by?
Right.
Right? Who's supporting their cause? Who are the major benefactors in regards to
Yeah.
the way they vote?
Mm-hmm.
Know that stuff.
And
Yeah,
remember, with our vote, they should be looking at us. They should be looking at their constituents, not the lobbyists, not those that are filling their pockets on the side or, yelling the loudest at the Capitol. They should be listening to the constituents. They should be listening to us and how we are going to vote moving forward so that we know how they have voted in this session, in the next section, so that when we go into the ballots, we can have a consistent understanding of what they stand for truly.
absolutely. Absolutely. We If we unite, we'll be unobstructed,
Yeah.
right? Because we can keep or remove whomever we choose.
Right.
Unfortunately, in Colorado, I would say that there are people who are the best choice, but maybe not your favorite,
Yeah.
which is politics,
Right.
right? They're the best choice because that's who's going to win.
Right.
Or you have your favorite. It's kind of it's a tough thing,
Yeah.
honestly. But letting know letting the person know who's the best choice, that you're paying attention,
Yeah.
that you're involved, that's important.
Yeah.
I hear from a lot of people that your vote doesn't matter. And what I would encourage people to look at is voter numbers and
I'm glad you're bringing this up.
voter like votes for like actual propositions and votes for candidates and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And the actual people registered to vote in those districts, it's pretty crazy when you look at it, like how close some of these propositions come to
Mm-hmm.
passing or failing, or even the representatives or senators that get voted in.
We're
It's
not
not.
outnumbered.
No, no, we're not.
Freedom loving Coloradans are not outnumbered.
Yet, and I look at it, I'm like, you live in the United States. We're afforded, like we get to vote.
Yeah.
If you don't like voting, there's a lot of other countries that
Yeah.
you can move to that they don't
Strip
allow
that right
voting.
away. Mm-hmm.
They don't allow voting. They don't allow a lot of things, you know. Um, but I look at it as like it's your duty.
True.
It is, and Colorado makes it so easy.
Yeah.
It's so easy to vote here.
Mm-hmm. Participate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be aware. What's coming up? What's being voted on? Who you need to vote for? What you need to vote on? Hopefully, you and I can do a good job
Yeah.
this coming and letting people know like what information we have, disseminate it, maybe create a little bit more clarity kind of going forward as we kind of go through this last part of the legislative session, what happens as they start going to the caucus, you know, making sure that you understand how your voice can be heard with that single vote, with that vote being a wave of change, hopefully.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The clarity that I would like to provide is so people know, like, hey, these are your options.
Mm-hmm.
Just this is literally how this person has talked. This is literally how this person has talked.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the person that's visited us or come here and
Right.
experienced just our business. Um, maybe has dealt with people that we know, you know. That way, I think a big thing I would look at personally is there's way people react or act around you, and there's ways that people react around your friends.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know how they act around my friends
Yeah.
or outside, not just around me.
Right.
That's what I like to know about politicians,
Yeah.
personally.
I think a promise I want to make to the public is I want to be more active on a county side.
Mm-hmm.
So I've already started going to county commissioner meetings. I want to go to board of trustee meetings, city council meetings, and be more involved, or I guess maybe not involved, but I want to be more of a fly on the wall, or maybe even just an individual that can be recognized in the crowd of, whether it's 20 people or 200 people, that's consistent. So I can bring some sort of perspective that may not be given to those events or those scheduled meetings, kind of moving forward. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be in politics, but I don't see any other way of being involved if you don't understand what's going on, or the multi-faceted pieces of the puzzle that are continually moving on a city level, on a state level, on a county level, as we move forward with this, how our business is going to be affected, how that's going to affect the citizens of our city, of our county, of our state.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to make that promise to you. I want to make that promise to everyone out there. Like, that is my goal for this year, is to be another ear, another person in the crowd for those events and for those meetings, so that we can have a voice if the opportunity presents itself.
Can't really complain about the game unless you show up.
Yep, true.
To be honest, you can't play the game unless you're in.
Yeah,
You, I think we have skin in the game.
yeah,
Lots of skin. Um, I think we have, you know, we've shown where we stand. We've shown where we are going to put effort.
yeah,
I want to succeed, not just in business and in life, but like I want Colorado to succeed
yeah.
for future generations. You know, I don't want to watch its demise from the
Yeah.
stands.
No.
Yeah.
You can't sit back and complain about what's happening if you have the opportunity to help or to make change the way you want to see it.
Uh,
And a vote is the simplest way.
Dan Gates says it's the best. He says if all sportsmen, sportswomen, whomever, put 4 to 8 hours a year in being involved,
Yeah.
we will make a change.
I like it.
Yeah, we will make a change.
We appreciate you watching. Please continue to stay tuned.
I want to thank everybody for watching. We do appreciate you stopping by, saying you saw us on TV or YouTube or whatever. Um, it's very much appreciated. It's very, very much appreciated. And like we said, stay tuned. There's definitely more to come.